Welcome, everyone. Hello. I see familiar faces. It seems like we talk often. And so, hi to friends of Tulsa Public Schools. Thank you all for your patience. We just finished, as you all did, hearing from State Auditor Byrd and had an opportunity to take a little bit of a water break, and here I am. So, thank you again for the time to be here. Want to just start off by saying that one of the things about the leadership within Tulsa Public Schools, and as the superintendent, we welcome feedback. We welcome the ability to exercise what we call continuous improvement. We have a goal to become an exemplar district in the state and an exemplar district in the nation. In order for us to get there, we've got to shore up our practices, make sure things are done appropriately, make sure that we continue to work towards all of our processes, fiscal controls, and transparency being in place. And so we welcome that information. It's been a 2.5-year journey for us. And so to get that data and that information today was welcomed, because we have wanted to see what exactly it is that we need to continue to do to improve. And so we'll just start there. Welcome.
So my first question is, one of the main things that Auditor Byrd said was that there was a big lack of documentation with invoices. Specifically, she said that the most pervasive issue was payments without itemized invoices or proof of receipts attached. First, what is your response to that, and how is the district changing, or how have you changed since that information became public?
I'll just say this: I'm not one to make excuses for practices that we are not proud that our practices that we've potentially conducted or not. I'll just say that we're the third largest employer in the city, which means we have quite a few team members that both come and go. We have processes that are in place that sometimes get changed or altered or need to be looked at. And we, again, if there is information that they're showing that we need to do a better job in the area of fiscal transparency and how we are conducting our invoices, procurement, all of our materials and information around our finances, we welcome that change. One of the things that Senator Byrd mentioned is that, State Auditor Byrd, mentioned was that we have known a lot of this information for quite some time. On the contrary, we have known some information, and as you know, during the monthly board meetings where I've presented to the Oklahoma State Department of Education, I've kind of given like a little bit of information every time around our fiscal controls, our financial transparency, things that we're changing, things that we're enhancing, things that we're doing better. I've introduced my new CFO, Kristen Stevens, to the state board. So we've been very transparent about the shift and the change. In addition to that, we set up on our own biweekly meetings with the Oklahoma State Department of Ed Financial Department so that we can get it right. We wanted to know exactly how do they want us to document things, what are some of the best practices in the state of Oklahoma that we can emulate off of those districts, show us examples of what it is that you would want to see, come in and look at all of our documents and show us and tell us what to do better. So again, we initiated that relationship. And so having said that, we have put in so many various things that we're really proud of. We've purchased an AI program that can detect fraud because, as you all know, we all can take a little bit of extra eyes and help. And so we're utilizing that software in order to do that. We've added more details into the information that we share with our board around our encumbrance reports, our procurement information. We report even more to our board. We actually have a budget finance board committee that we meet with on a very consistent basis to keep those board members up to date on all the things that we are doing with our finances. There are several other things. We have hired an auditor who actually she actually works in our district to audit our practices and to report to me things that I need to be aware of, and making sure we have even more oversight over those processes and that work. When it comes to how business has been conducted prior to, I'm not going to speak to that. I'm just going to speak to exactly what I ensured happened under my leadership. A lot of communication about exactly how are we handling our finances, making sure that my CFO and I meet on a very consistent basis so that I can see a running log of how we are utilizing our tools, our information, our team members training, and all of those things. In addition to that, just making sure that our board has ongoing access and understanding of how we're handling our finances. So when we do have presentations by our CFO about our budget, I am very mindful of whether or not board members have questions at that time, in that moment, during the board meeting, before, after, and usually, typically, in our board meetings under my leadership, every one of the board members approve all of the information that's presented by our team, our CFO, and myself. And so, having said that, we are continuing to utilize those processes. We're shoring up how we are handling our fiscal and financial transparency and controls.
Have there been any changes made with how invoices are actually filled out, or how the district looks at invoices that are sent to it?
Yeah, there are. Because this was brought to our attention, I want to also just say that when it comes to what was talked about regarding ESSER dollars, let me just go there, because that was something that our State Auditor Byrd, brought up. One, I think she did double down on the fact that we did not misappropriate or misuse any of our ESSER funds. So I just want to stamp that. I also just want to say that what I gathered from the PowerPoint, because I want to make sure you're mindful that I have not seen the entire audit. I've seen the PowerPoint that was presented to my team, and in actuality, much of the information today was a little bit more than what had been given to me. So I was able to see more information and more examples and details as you saw that today. But that information that our state auditor provided to us, what we learned was that we know that there are some practices that we definitely have to continue to step in and shore up and monitor and bring oversight to. We also have to be mindful that as we get new employees, they have to be trained and retrained and then brought in under the way to do documentation properly. When it comes to our ESSER, I just want to also add that whenever we submitted those invoices for payment for ESSER, all of those things were taken care of by the State Department. We received those dollars that we submitted, or the invoices that we submitted for that, those things were handled at the State Department, and no one questioned whether or not we filled anything out incorrectly. So we wouldn't have known that it was not enough information on that documentation until we got this finding. Having said that, since then, we have given a lot more attention and detail to how we are actually submitting those documents. Much more information about exactly what we're purchasing, what is going to be the return on investment, exactly what will the dollars actually pay for. So our team has shored up those practices.
So State Auditor Byrd kind of brought up this whole 9-month number that you guys have kind of known about this for 9 months. What did you guys know about at that 9-month point, and is that the same? I know you said that you got some more details from this today. What is she kind of referring to with that from your perspective?
Yeah, so we've been in touch with 2 team members from the State Auditor's Office. I've met our State Auditor Byrd one time because I had not met her. I actually scheduled an appointment to meet her personally in her office. So I actually had a meeting at the State Department because, you know, I was doing monthly presentations. I was able to go to the next parking lot and go and meet State Auditor Byrd. That's the only time I've ever met her personally. The 2 individuals on her team are the 2 people that we have visited with on a consistent basis. Remind me once again of that question.
She had brought up that you guys had known about this for 9
Yep,
months.
let me address that. So yes, the 2 team members from her team did come and actually sit down with me and my legal representative at the time. So when we were visited, it was not about at least 50% of what we saw today was not anything that was brought to our attention. We were told about fiscal responsibility, internal controls. We were talked to about the fraud that took place with Devin Fletcher. Those were things that were mentioned to us at that time. Other things that we learned about and you all learned about today was not at all presented to us 9 months ago.
So what, if any, administrative changes have been made since this time? I know that we had an employee that stepped down over this past 2 weeks. Are these people that were engaging in this financial malpractice that she was talking about, do they still work for the district, or what do those changes look like?
Yeah, so the change that I would want to call out would be, I have a new administrative team, and so everyone who worked on the team before the previous cabinet, there's only 2 of us, and we're in different roles. And so I'm superintendent, and then I have my chief of information and operations in Joe Jennings. Having said that, one, we have a brand new team of chiefs and executive cabinet. Number two, within that, we have a new CFO. And so then many things are changing as a result of having new staff who come with new vision, new opportunity for change, a lot more more skill set around how to detect things like this. She happens to be a CPA, which gives us a lot of benefit around how to look for financial matters that could then not be appropriate. So that's great. In addition, we've added an auditor. I brought that up before. We didn't have our own auditor who actually is hired by Tulsa Public Schools to continuously examine our practices. And then when it comes to the employee that she mentioned that has submitted a resignation, I won't speak too much on that because that is a personnel matter, but I will say as soon as that information was presented to us, when we received that a couple of weeks ago, we immediately took action. I put that particular employee on administrative leave.
So can you address some discrepancies with this whole 2-week statute thing? I know there was some kind of questions about whether you invoke it, and then there's kind of this conception that this isn't invoked. Can you kind of discuss that a little bit with us?
Absolutely. So absolutely no invoke. It's a law. And so basically we were presented to the information, and let me just talk about being, you know, when State Auditor Byrd, referred to it being a little bit of an issue with information being received or we have emails that show that the auditors who work with us were appreciative of how we work with them. So we got a lot of thank yous. We have correspondence back and forth. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to get this audit a while back. We were told, I'm sorry, we have to cancel because we have a personal matter. In Tulsa Public Schools, we understand that. What we wrote back was absolutely no problem. Let us know when we're ready to reschedule. We look forward to getting the information. We want to continue to work alongside you. Call us, let us know if there's anything we need to answer for you. They called, we answered, we delivered information. So I'm saying all of that to say we have continued to work in collaboration with the State Auditor's Office so that we can get to today where we can move forward. Our goal is to put our students first. Our goal is to continue to work towards being an exemplar district. We're going to continue to shore up our practices because what I do know is that there will be other districts that will look to Tulsa and know that we've gotten through and learned a lot of things and they can learn and we can actually help them. We're going to continue to take feedback so that we can continue to do better, and we're going to ask for clarification on things that we may not fully, completely get or understand, and we need more clarity on those things.
Gotcha. If you could release it, what is the name of the former CFO, and do they still work for the district?
I'll just say the former CFO is no longer in our district. We have our new CFO. Mm-hmm.
When you do finally get a chance to read the audit, will you be sending corrections, clarifications, et cetera, to the auditor's office as the facts warrant?
Thank you for that question. We've already, from the PowerPoint presentation of the audit findings, we have submitted, because that's what we have, that's all we have, we have submitted our questions and or wonderings and or inquiry and or artifacts to get the auditor's office to just take a look at and see if there could have been some maybe misunderstanding there, or we need some more clarity on some of these findings. So we've already submitted that. They have acknowledged that they've received it, and we will wait to see what happens as a result of that.
So they've acknowledged receipt, but you haven't actually gotten a response yet?
That is correct. We've also asked for the audit. So we did, okay. So we put in open records for the audit, and we've got an acknowledgement that that was received. We actually went straight to the link right after her presentation. The link wasn't ready at the time. It could be now.
We know that a couple of weeks ago, you all had a chance to do a PowerPoint sit-down with Byrd. Tell me, how much of today was a surprise to you? It seems like it wasn't all known to you all before we all sat through that about 30-minute presentation today.
I'll say that, so we haven't had the opportunity for State Auditor Byrd to actually present to us. It was two of her team members who work in her office who actually sat down with us in Tulsa as State Auditor Byrd was preparing to do a press conference. So that's how that went. And so ask me.
How much of this was a surprise to you today?
Yeah, so one of the things I will say is overall, there was information that was shared that was not a, oh my gosh, we didn't know that. It was more of, we did not have that much level of detail and or didn't know that you had a concern about X because that wasn't given to us. And so the overarching findings we knew about. The headlines, we, for the most part, had that in the PowerPoint. But some of the connections that were made to very specific examples and individuals and various sets of artifacts, we did not have any of that information.
One of the major issues brought up was direct pay with the foundation. How has that process with the foundation changed?
Yeah, so the CEO and executive director in Moises Echeverria and myself knew that from the time we took our positions around the same time, we knew right then that there was work that we needed to do to collaborate on tightening up processes. So what we've done, we have check-ins that are very often. In those check-ins, anytime that there is a request, whether it is for teachers who want something awesome in their classroom, to giving some extra bonuses to teachers for being named Teacher of the Year, we actually are in communication before there's an approval on either side. So, so that's definitely one of the areas in which we have collaborated. We're working very closely with our Board of Education to make sure that they're informed around things that come through both to the foundation's office for request and or transaction and to my office. So the Board of Education do not have to approve those things because the foundation has a board. However, we do now have it where they actually know about it and they can actually have line of sight to exactly what those things are. And we're working on a policy. Yeah, we've received some great feedback around taking what would be an agreement between us. Our board president has pushed, and rightfully so, on making sure we lift this to an actual policy, where here's how we do work in Tulsa Public Schools alongside our Foundation for Tulsa Schools.
The vendor Snickelbox kept coming up. Does the district still have contracts with Snickelbox?
No, we do not.
We're about to hand it over to our board, but Dr. Thompson, I think there were a couple things you might have notes on that you wanted to have that haven't touched on yet.
I do. There's a couple of things I want to make sure it's understood. During the presentation from the representatives of the auditor's office, so the auditor, Brenda Holt, was asked by one of our board members, board member Ashley, if we had done anything that was illegal. So that question came up, I would say, a couple of times. I want to be very clear that the response that we received was that nothing at this time point towards anything being done that was illegal, other than what we already know to be true and what's been prosecuted, which is the fraud by Devin Fletcher. And then, other than that, we have nothing that says that it's pointing to anything illegal. So I wanted to make sure that that's known. In addition to that, I also want to talk just a little bit about the conversation around DEI and CRT. So based on what our state auditor mentioned around the amount that's been spent on that, I just want to make sure it's very clear, and I've got some very matter-of-fact information I want to read, if that's okay, because I want to make sure you don't miss anything on where our stance is and how we feel about this particular finding. We would never limit a student's opportunity or talk down to them based on their race. Every opportunity, no matter your background, race, etc., it's baked into everything we do as a district, and so every student in our district has exceptional access to opportunities. House Bill 1775 and similar orders were not enacted until 2021 or later. The audit questions expenses back to 2015. Again, we never got details to examine this. Much of the audit is a look back in time. Since July 12th of 2021, Tulsa Public Schools has adhered to the rules in place. You know, I believe when you hear DEI and CRT together, people go to a fearful place and imagine white children being called white supremacists. That is not happening at all in Tulsa Public Schools. We would not allow that. We train our team that this is unacceptable. We actually have policies against that. Our non-discrimination policy, Policy 4901, states, Tulsa Public Schools does not discriminate on the basis of race, religion, color, national origin, gender, disability, or any other classification. We do not teach critical race theory or CRT. Our strategic plan directly articulates the expectation for all students to be the beneficiaries of educational opportunities. I hire the best people who care about all of our students. We believe in the potential of every child. We are not about telling anyone that they are better or worse than anyone else. Every student and team member have the opportunity to shine as an individual. Just want to make sure that was known. And at this time, I will close out my...
Over to our board members. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.